Have you ever read something and then felt like a piece was missing? Like someone tore out a page on purpose? Because that's exactly what happened. And not just to any book. I'm talking about Genesis, the very beginning of everything. My name's Michael, and I've been a follower of Christ since I could remember how to fold my hands in prayer. But what I stumbled across one quiet night in my study room shook me to my core. Not because it denied my faith. No, it deepened it. It expanded it. It made it burn brighter. And it all started with one name, Enoch. Now, before you scroll past thinking, oh, yeah, that guy who didn't die, stay with me, because if you know the story of Enoch, then you only know the version they allowed you to know. Genesis 5:24 simply says, Enoch walked faithfully with God, then he was no more because God took him away. No funeral, no grave, no explanation. A man who didn't die, just taken. But here's the part that made me fall silent in that room. There was a book, his book, entire chapters, entire scrolls about what Enoch saw, what he was taught, what he witnessed, and they were erased. Not lost, erased. Ask yourself, why? Why would a man who walked with God so closely that he was taken rather than killed, why would his words be deleted from the holy text? What did he write that made early religious leaders so afraid they buried it in caves and branded it heresy? And even more haunting, why is it resurfacing now? Pause for just a second. If you feel something stirring in your chest, if this is reaching your spirit, subscribe now, because this isn't just a video, it's a calling. And trust me, you'll want to see what's coming next. So back to Enoch. I started digging. Late nights. Books forbidden by seminary libraries. Ancient scrolls digitized by brave historians. And what I found was a forbidden Genesis, a chapter that was never meant to vanish. In it, Enoch doesn't just tell his life story, he tells ours. He reveals a truth so profound it would turn the entire church structure upside down. Because Enoch says that the fall of man wasn't just about Adam and Eve, it was about the Watchers. Yes, you heard that right. 200 divine beings, once radiant, once pure, descended from heaven and began to interfere in human affairs. They taught forbidden knowledge, secrets of the stars, the shaping of metal, potions, cosmetics, warfare. They gave us power, but without purpose. They gave us knowledge, but without wisdom. And they mated with the daughters of man. The result? Giants, the Nephilim, beings that walked the earth like gods, destroying everything sacred in their path. These weren't fairy tales. These were ancient warnings. And Enoch, he saw it all. He documented it. He was a prophet, a witness, a messenger. But his message was too dangerous to be preserved in public. So the leaders hid it, burned it, silenced it. But God has a way of preserving what needs to be remembered. And now, through caves in Qumran, through whispers passed down by monks in hiding, and through digital scrolls that you and I can now access, we are finally hearing Enoch's voice again. And I believe that's no accident. It's a divine appointment. This isn't about conspiracy. This is about calling. This is about your faith being stronger than what tradition allowed. It's about seeing Jesus with deeper eyes and tracing his mission all the way back to what Enoch knew. Enoch didn't just predict the flood. He predicted the rise of the Messiah. He described visions of the Son of Man before Isaiah, before Daniel, before anyone else. And you know what's even more shocking? He said that we, you, me, all of us are part of that story. So I'm going to ask you this. Are you ready to hear what was erased? Are you ready to remember what the enemy wanted forgotten? Because Enoch's message was never meant to make you afraid. It was meant to set you free. But before we continue, hit like if your spirit feels this truth rising inside you. Comment I am remembering below and join the growing community of believers who are done being spoon-fed, watered-down doctrine. We are ready to drink from the deep well. And now, let me tell you what Enoch really saw. Stay with me and let's walk this path together. You're still here. That already tells me something about you. You're not afraid of truth. You're not afraid of asking the questions no one dares to ask in Sunday service. So let me take you deeper now into the visions that Enoch recorded, the ones that terrified kings, the ones that made religious leaders hide his book from the world. Because what Enoch saw wasn't just history, it was a prophecy, and it began with a descent. Not man's descent, but heaven's. In the Book of Enoch, chapter 6, he describes something so radical it sounds like science fiction, until you realize the ancient prophets were always speaking in codes only the faithful would understand. 200 divine beings known as watchers stood at the edge of heaven, and they chose to fall. Now, if you've been told that this was rebellion, disobedience, sin against God, today I want to offer you a different lens, because Enoch doesn't paint them as demons, not at first. He calls them radiant beings, carriers of knowledge, watchers of mankind. They didn't fall by accident. They descended on purpose. Why? To bring gifts, wisdom, light, and yes, danger. Because when divine knowledge is handed to a people who have forgotten who they are, it burns. And that's exactly what happened. The Watchers taught humanity how to read the stars, how to shape weapons, how to control the elements, how to seduce the eye and manipulate the body. They didn't just teach science, they revealed the sacred technology of heaven. But they forgot one thing. You cannot give a child the fire of the gods unless you teach them how not to burn. And so the world spiraled. Giants were born, not just physical ones, spiritual giants, greed, pride, war, vanity. The Nephilim walked the earth like kings, and humans bowed to them like gods. And here's the part the church doesn't want you to hear. These giants didn't just disappear. Their legacy lives on, not in flesh, but in systems. The hunger for control, the rewriting of sacred texts, the twisting of Jesus from mirror into idol. It started there, and Enoch saw it. He warned us that one day a Messiah would come, not to build an empire, but to undo what they started, to return us to the truth before the twisting. And if you're watching this right now, I believe you are one of the souls chosen to remember. Because this isn't just a video. This is a wake-up call. Hit subscribe if your heart is stirring. This is the time. You weren't meant to walk this path alone. Let me tell you something the scholars won't. Jesus knew the Book of Enoch. He didn't just know it. He lived it. When he called himself the Son of Man, he was quoting Enoch directly, not the book of Isaiah, not Psalms. Enoch. He was identifying with the prophecy, the one who would come to awaken the forgotten, the one who would walk through this fallen world not to conquer it, but to resurrect it. Do you understand what that means? It means Jesus wasn't just a fulfillment of Hebrew law. He was the climax of a far older divine drama, the cosmic plan to restore what was lost before the flood. And you're a part of it, because the Book of Enoch doesn't just warn about the fall of the Watchers. It points forward to a generation that would awaken, a generation that would no longer need priests to feel God, because they would realize God never left. He was always inside, buried, forgotten, but never gone. And that's why the scrolls were hidden, because once people remember who they really are, the church can't control them. Once people see Jesus not just as a God to worship, but as a model to follow, empires fall. That's why they erased Enoch. That's why they burned his words. But God preserved them for you. So tell me, do you feel that fire rising inside you? That ache in your soul like you were born for something ancient? Ancient. Hit like if this speaks to you. Comment, I am the return, because that's what you are, a soul who's come back to finish the story. And now we come to the most beautiful part. The moment Enoch walks with God, he doesn't die. He doesn't rot. He ascends, not because he was perfect, but because he remembered. He saw who he really was. He saw who we really are. And God said, that one, he's ready. So he took him, but not before Enoch left one final message, a prophecy for the last generation, a people who would rise from the ruins of broken religion, who would carry the Christ light, not in books, but in bodies. You're still here, reading these words, feeling them. That means the prophecy is already beginning. You are not waiting for the Son of Man to return. You are remembering that he never left. In part 3, I'll share what Enoch's final vision revealed about you, and how the secret to Christ's message wasn't about a throne, but a mirror. Don't miss it. Subscribe now and stay with me, because we're not done. We're only just beginning. You've made it this far, and that means you've felt it too. That strange flicker inside you, like something ancient, something familiar, is beginning to stir again. It's not just curiosity, it's memory. And I believe that's exactly what the Book of Enoch was always meant to awaken. Because in the final pages, those torn from history, hidden from pulpits, condemned by councils, Enoch describes something far more dangerous than demons or giants. He speaks of a mirror, not a prophecy of destruction, but of remembrance. And in that mirror, he sees the Son of Man, but not as a separate being, not as an untouchable deity. He sees the Son of Man as a blueprint, a radiant pattern of what every soul could become if they remembered. Let that sink in. The church turned Jesus into the exception, but Enoch showed us he was the example. That's why they erased it. Because a world where Jesus is the only one means power stays in the hands of a few. But a world where Jesus is the first of many, that world cannot be controlled. And Enoch wrote that down. He wrote that the Christ wasn't coming to save us from ourselves, but to awaken us to ourselves. He said the Son of Man would reveal the treasures of what had been hidden, not in temples, not in cathedrals, but in you. That's why Jesus didn't build a palace. That's why he wandered the desert, why he spoke of the kingdom of heaven as something within, not a reward after death, but a realm inside the living. Do you see it now? The truth that connects the scrolls of Qumran, the fire of the Watchers, the forbidden Book of Enoch, the teachings of Jesus Christ himself, it's all part of the same map. A map back to the place where you and God were never apart. And now the final piece. You remember how Enoch didn't die? That wasn't just a miracle. It was a model. He ascended because he lived aligned with the divine pattern. He didn't cling to form. He didn't fear the end. He walked so deeply with God. He became light. That's not mythology. That's a message. When you live in truth, when you release false identity, when you carry the light without bowing to the systems of control, you rise, not into the sky, but into your soul. And isn't that exactly what Jesus taught? Sorry, you will do greater things than these. But they never taught us how. They taught us how to kneel, but not how to rise. That was the heresy of Enoch. That was the threat of Jesus. Not that he claimed to be God, but that he claimed you were too, and they couldn't allow that to spread. So they turned the mirror into a painting, the example into an idol, the message into a business. But the truth, it survived, buried in clay, etched in stars, carved into you. So now what? Now that you've seen it, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to sleep. And maybe that's why you're still watching, still reading, still trembling a little because something deep in you is saying, this is it. This is what I was born to remember. Then take this final truth with you. The church may have hidden the scrolls, the councils may have erased the books, but they never could erase the one place it truly mattered. Inside you, that spark is still there, the divine breath, the light the Watchers passed down, the Christ seed Jesus spoke of. It's not gone. It's buried, and now it's awakening. So let me ask you, not as a preacher, not as a historian, but as one who's walked this road with trembling and fire, are you ready to carry the light? Are you ready to stop worshiping the story and become it? Because that's what Enoch left us. Not just prophecy, but a path. Not just knowledge, but a code. And when you choose to live it, not just believe it, you don't just change your story. You become the continuation of his. So now, press like not for me, but as a signal to the universe. Comment, I am the mirror if you feel the fire. Subscribe, not to content, but to the return of your own remembrance. Because Jesus never left you. The scrolls were never lost. And you were never broken. You are the scroll. You are the temple. You are the son or daughter of man the world has been waiting for. And this isn't the end of the video. It's the beginning of your return.